True Crime Society podcast contains adult themes and violence and is not intended for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised. And if you'd like to skip the intro or move to any specific part of the podcast, please refer to the timestamps listed in the episode description. Thank you. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the True Crime Society podcast with Stephanie and Olivia. It is March 29th. We are still double recording. So, this one is going to come out pretty timely. So it's okay that it's still March. Weather here is still cold. I'm still surviving. I felt like I was finally getting back into a good schedule with baby Jack. Well, I wouldn't say good. Like we were getting back on track, I felt like, with his sleep schedule because he's been waking up a lot at night. But now I think he's like peak teething again because he's very disgruntled. So I'm like, oh, great. So again, as soon as you think you got it figured out, there's another thing where it's like, no, you don't. You're going to suffer again. So I was up with him on and off till like 3:30 in the morning last night. So been a long day. And then he gets up at like him sleeping till 6. I was like, that's late. What a treat. But very tired. So that's my life right now. I don't really have much to talk about because I'm just like, my brain isn't working.
Yeah.
What about you?
So yeah, Monday morning here, we've got about, I don't know, like I think it's 11 days till we go on this trip. That's one thing I did want to actually ask about because I was like, I don't really have anything much to say. But so for this trip, because we're going for so long, we're trying to pack lightly because we're going to have a lot of transport and I just don't want to be lugging massive suitcases. So our current plan is to take one huge suitcase that we'll all share, and then we've each got like a proper carry-on bag. Like it's a good, like I bought us all good ones that are easy to wheel and they're like pretty spacious inside, but they fit on carry on the plane. So we're going to do a practice pack this weekend to see if that is actually going to be an achievable goal. My friend did it and she's like, you've got to Google capsule wardrobes and all that. But like the thing is, we're going to so many different places that the weather is very different. Like the weather in LA is currently so hot. And then when I looked in New York last night, it said it was 0 degrees, which is freezing. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to need a lot of stuff. So I know it's like, and because it goes for a long time too, like the weather will change. So I need to think more about what we're actually going to pack. So if anyone has any tips or hints for packing for a very long trip for very different climates, let me know. We will do
as
a practice
minimally
pack
as
this
possible.
coming weekend. Yeah, and I like, because I am never really a minimal packer, but I feel like I just have to be because I would much rather have the ease of not lugging a ton of shit around. Like that would make me feel better than, and I always pack stuff and I never wear it. So I'm like, you know, I don't know. I just need to.
I do that too. I pack so much stuff and then I don't even wear it.
Yeah. So yeah, this episode will come out this week when I'm about to pack. So please let me know in the Spotify comments if you have any tips, hints, any things. Like even I've bought things like a portable clothesline that you can hang in hotels because I know, like, for instance, if it rains and your stuff gets wet, it's often hard to dry it. So all that type of stuff. But I just need to be organized.
Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah, I know. Good luck.
Sounds like a lot.
Yeah. And even things like some international flights we can check however many bags, but I know like the internal US flight you've got to pay per bag and it just is a lot of money with the exchange rate and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, trying to minimize that for financial and easy reasons, but we'll see how we go.
The US sucks at everything. Hopefully all the TSA drama is fixed by then.
I actually have a friend who flew into LA last night from Australia. Her daughter is doing a dance thing, but like a week ahead of us or a week or two ahead of us. And she said the lines were actually shorter than the lines that we had in Sydney. And Sydney is usually very good. So I feel like the international flights should be all right. I am a bit worried about the LAX to New York flight, but maybe by then it'll all be sorted. And apparently I've read, and I don't know if this is true, but apparently LAX isn't too affected. But anyway, maybe New York.
Hopefully. I don't know. I've just seen a lot about it online.
I know. Me too. Like every time I go on TikTok, it's like just the terminal with 1 million people.
Yeah.
Right, here we go.
Well, hope for the best for you.
Yeah. Fingers crossed.
So we got some Patreon shout outs as well. We have Nikki with a Y, Nikki with an I, Marina, Ashley, Taylor, Ashley, Kayla, Abby, Laurel, Krista, and Chrissy. So thank you guys for joining. Love to have you. You guys are the best ever.
And our
Woo!
listener of the week this week is Chrissy, who is also now a Patreon. She sent us a message when she signed up saying, "Hi girls, long time listener here, 6 years I think, and I finally joined Patreon. So excited." So thank you so much.
That's
Very
awesome.
exciting.
It's so crazy how long we've been doing this because like it doesn't feel like it, but does at the same time.
Yeah. I know. I just feel like too, because when we started, not to harp on, but when we started, it was like COVID. So it was a weird, crazy time. We were kind of in this weird time
Just
warp.
like blacked out.
Yeah. You've blacked out that period of time.
Yeah. Okay. So before we get into the episode topic, we do have a quick Savannah Guthrie update. I mean, it's not really like an update, but we just wanted to talk about the interview that she did for the Today Show. So Olivia wrote down some points.
So I know that since so she did the interview with the Today Show, and then there's also been a Dateline special. I haven't been able to watch the Dateline special here yet this week because we don't get it live and I haven't found it, but I will try and find it this week and watch it. So this is just based on her Today Show interview. It was 2 parts, basically each were about like 20 minutes long if you haven't seen it, but she spoke to Hoda about her experience and about obviously her mother, Nancy, at the time of recording is now missing. I feel like we are now, like, because it's now March, so she went missing 1st of Feb, I think.
Yeah.
So we are now at 2 months essentially that she's been missing. Still hasn't been found. So I just wanted to run through the interview in case anyone hasn't seen it. There wasn't a whole lot of new information, but there were some interesting parts that I pulled out. She did say at one point that the back doors of Nancy's house were propped open, and I'm paraphrasing, but she made a comment. It was almost as if they thought maybe paramedics had propped it open to get her out, which wasn't the case, obviously. Like, it was whoever took Nancy probably propped the doors open, which is interesting.
Yeah.
She also spoke about the ransom letters, and she said that she believed at least 2 of the letters were real. Well, she didn't say which ones, so that was interesting, I thought. She did mention that her brother and her had a discussion that maybe Nancy was targeted for kidnapping and ransom because of Savannah being a public figure and the assumption and, I guess reality that she has money. So she feels very guilty about that, which is understandable. She doesn't seem to really know much. She was asked if she was kind of happy with what her thoughts were on the investigation, how it had progressed, and she basically said that the investigation is still ongoing, which we all knew, but it hasn't been closed. There hasn't been any resolution. She still doesn't know if her mother is alive or dead, but she spoke about her often in the present tense in the interview. She said she looked out of a plane window at one point when she was going back to New York and thought, "Where are you?" So they don't seem to have any idea, or if she does, she's holding her cards very close to her chest.
Mm-hmm.
She also spoke about the terror that Nancy must have felt, which I agree. Like, imagine just this elderly woman in her bed waking up to see this horrific masked, probably man standing over you. It would be so sad. And how Savannah also spoke about how she's speaking to her own children about it. Like, they've asked if there's any developments and things like that. Like, there's other things that, I guess the public don't really probably think about too much in terms of other things she has to deal with, not just her mother going missing. She's also a mother to her own children who also have lost their grandmother. So other facets to the investigation and the case. She also spoke about how heartbreaking it was that there was a lot of speculation placed on her sister Annie and Annie's husband Tommy. She called him in the interview. So yeah, not too much. Like, she didn't reveal much at all. I don't know how much she actually knows. One part I did also, which I didn't write down, but I was just thinking about it now, is she made a comment about something along the lines of, "I will not hide my face." Which I thought was interesting. And then I was speaking to someone about it. They're like, I wonder if that was part of what was in the ransom note.
Yeah.
Like, I know people have speculated that Nancy was taken because of something that Savannah has reported on, for example. So maybe something along those lines. But I did think it was a weird thing to say. Like, Savannah, I feel anyway, is very dramatic. She's obviously a journalist. She knows how to read the news and say the news. So I feel like that's where a lot of that kind of dramatics come from. I don't think she means to do it. It's just she knows how to tell a story.
She's like well-spoken,
Yeah, she's very well-spoken, and this is her job for however many decades. She knows how to speak about a story. So I feel like she just does it naturally at this point. We have had a few messages on Instagram about the Dateline special, which, as I mentioned, I haven't watched, so I will try and report back. But a lot of people have said they found it interesting because they thought Savannah did seem a bit hard to believe, maybe, like, which I don't know if that's part of the dramatics. A bit, what's the word? disingenuous, like not quite.
Yeah.
Maybe
I
not,
kind of get
not,
what they mean.
Yeah, not telling
like,
the truth, but maybe covering.
It feels
not
like
covering things up. You know what I'm trying to say?
Like it feels shitty to say like over the top because obviously the pain that they're going through is immense, but you're just not used to people being able to convey that so
articulately
well that it seems
without
off.
It being scripted. Like, and I feel like for her, as I mentioned, I feel like it's because she's done it for so long. She probably doesn't need a script. This is her story to tell. She knows how to tell a story, and she's doing it like she has a million times before. And it just comes across a little bit different to probably how most people would tell it because they just aren't equipped to speak like she does.
Yeah, agreed. Like, it seems weird because I think it's just something people aren't used to, but I don't think it's weird. Like, everything I think that she said, like, I feel like is so true. Like, just it has to be so hard to think about like your mom waking up to like an intruder above her bed. She also mentioned that her mom wasn't very mobile, which we kind of said, but she said on a good day, like her mom could maybe walk to the mailbox. So just horrible to think about, like your elderly mother waking up in her bed and she can't move very well. She's not very mobile, essentially, and just like being terrified. It's very sad.
And she actually made a point, like when you said that she could walk to the mailbox, but she said something like most days weren't like that. So it wasn't like she was having the majority of good days. She may have had one good day every now and then where she was able to go and get the mail, but generally she was not very mobile and able to move around.
That's why it's just sad because, you know, these people like didn't care about her like mobility and they probably were not very kind.
Yeah. Like I could talk about, I know we've spoken a lot about Nancy.
I know. I'm like, we need to stop talking about it.
I did just one other thing I did find interesting was that, you know, in my TikTok scrolls, obviously not verified, but my theory now in the case, just to update after 2 months, is that Nancy was taken for ransom. I think that the person, whoever it was, kind of underestimated how sick and how frail she was. And I feel like maybe she passed away very quickly, either because she didn't have medication or maybe she had a heart attack or whatever, like something like along those lines. I don't think that, like my theory is that maybe the person didn't mean for her to pass away when she did.
That's kind of what I think too.
Scrolling TikTok, because I'm like, why would you go to all this effort to take her and then to not have any ransom or anything? Do you know what I mean? Like, there just seems to have been this whole abduction and then nothing happened afterwards. There has to have been a reason why she was taken, and there doesn't seem to have been at this point. So that's why I think maybe she died and then the person got scared and was, no, I'm going to be charged with murder if I am found. But when I was scrolling TikTok, I came across this one person, like obviously it's speculation, but this is along the lines of what I think happened. They insinuated that the family have another letter, and basically the person wrote and said that exactly what I've said. They underestimated how frail she was. She passed away and she's now with God. So I don't know. There's still a lot of speculation online. I feel like after Savannah's interviews, there'll be even more, probably more so based on the family if people are finding her disingenuous. So I'll watch and come back next week if I've got any more comments on it.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I think happened. The whole thing's just sad, and it's just crazy that it's gone on for this long at this point.
Yeah, I agree. And like for a while, we're like every week we're like, it's going to be this week. It's going to be this week.
I know.
Now I'm
at
at a point where I'm like, I just feel like I don't even know if we'll ever know. Like, I know it's hard to hide a body, but when you think about cases, for example, like Maura Murray, it's been over 20 years. We don't know what happened to her. Maybe she was murdered. Maybe she died in the mountains. But it is possible for bodies to be hidden for a very, very long time and sometimes never, ever found, especially based on things like animal activity. If, like Nancy's out in the desert somewhere. We don't know. But I just, now at this point, I'm like, I really don't know if it'll ever be solved.
Yeah, sadly, I agree.
Watch tomorrow. There's an update after we've just recorded.
Probably. With our luck.
Yeah. Before we get into the episode, we're going to hear a word from our sponsor, Noom. I know that I've been thinking a lot about my health these days, and a way for me that I can reach peak health is to drop a little bit of weight occasionally. You know, sometimes it's hard to keep on top of weight loss and staying healthy, and I sometimes plateau. I feel like I've tried everything and nothing is working for me no matter what, and things that worked in the past stop working for some reason. So we've all been there, but Noom's unlocked the secret to reaching the mountaintop. That's going micro. That's right, micro habits, micro wins, even microdose GLP-1s. Noom is the easy way to start on GLP-1 medication. That's because Noom starts you on a smaller dose of medication and then you gradually scale up depending on how your body reacts to it. That doesn't mean you still don't lose weight. In fact, Noom found users lose on average 8 pounds in 30 days on their microdose protocol.
But what good is losing all that weight if you can't make the results stick? That's why Noom pairs their microdose GLP-1s with behavior change and coaching so you can learn healthy habits and make the results stick. The Noom GLP-1 microdose program starts at $99 and is delivered to your door in 7 days. Start your microdose GLP-1 journey today at Noom.com. That's Noom.com. Noom, micro changes, big results. Disclaimers. Initial 3-week subscription and 4 weeks of medication from $99 plus tax and $199 per month plus tax for 12-week subscription thereafter. Final pricing depends on program selection. Noom GLP-1 RX program involves healthy diet, exercise, and support. Individual results may vary. Meds and personalization based on clinical need, not reviewed by FDA for safety, efficacy, or quality. No affiliation with Novo Nordisk Inc., the only U.S. source of FDA-approved semaglutide, not available in all 50 U.S. states. Results are based on an analysis of self-reported data from 1,254 engaged Noom users. Okay, so we'll get into what we're talking about today. We're going to be talking about the case of Skylar Neese, which has been suggested to us a lot over the years, I feel like. But specifically, we wrote down Orzer.
I don't know. I think it's their username, like because we always try and credit everyone. So I searched through our Instagram messages, and these are two that I can find. If anyone else has mentioned it, let us know. We can credit you next time. But yeah, Jennifer and Orzer, I would say.
There's a baby man here. He's being vocal. Hi, mister. Shh. You're not old enough to podcast yet. On a quiet summer night in a small town where nothing ever seemed to happen, a 16-year-old girl slipped out of her bedroom window and never came back. At first, it looked like another runaway story, the kind people assume will resolve itself by morning. But as days turned into months, the truth behind Skylar Neese's disappearance unraveled into something far more chilling. A story of friendship, betrayal, and a secret that was hiding in plain sight. How well do you really know the people closest to you, and what are they capable of when no one is watching? Skylar Neese, who was 16 years old, was murdered in 2012 by two of her best friends from high school, Shelia Eddy and Rachel Shoaf.
They were supposed to be best friends for life, Shelia Eddy, Rachel Shoaf, and Skylar Neese. But last summer, one of those BFFs' lives was cut tragically short. Skylar Neese stabbed and left for dead.
The only thing I care about is they get what's coming to them.
It was July 2012 when 16-year-old Skylar, a student at University High School in West Virginia, went missing. Surveillance footage shows her sneaking out of her family's home in the dead of night. After months of searching, there was still no sign of the teen. And then, a stunning turn in the case. Close friend Rachel Shoaf comes forward, providing the location of Skylar's dead body. The one-time best friend admits to maliciously and intentionally causing the death of Skylar Neese by stabbing her and causing fatal injuries. But the story doesn't end there. While one best friend admitted to murder, the other, 17-year-old Shelia Eddy, comforted the family. She even tweeted, "Rest easy, Skylar. You'll always be my best friend. I miss you more than you could ever know." But according to prosecutors, that tweet was just a smokescreen. And this week, she too will be charged with Skylar's murder.
If you're innocent, you don't cover up something for 9 months. You don't come to somebody's house the next day after you murder somebody and walk up and down the street and try to look for the person that you murdered.
Shelia Eddy has not yet entered a plea, and her lawyers have released a statement saying it's premature to comment on the case at this time. Now, Skylar Neese's family is left asking why this friendship that was supposed to last forever ended in murder.
Skylar Annette Neese was born to Mary and Dave Neese on February 10th, 1996. She was their only child. Mary worked as an admin assistant, and Dave worked as a product assembler at Walmart. Skylar attended University High School in Morgantown, West Virginia, where she was an honors student. Skylar worked at Wendy's, and she had aspirations of becoming a criminal defense attorney. Her father said she was a very bubbly person. She was also very loyal to her friends, the people she thought were her friends. Her father also said she was beautiful, she was intelligent, she was fun, she was a good kid. Before we get into the story, we'll go over some background about Shelia and Rachel as well. So Shelia Ray Eddy was born in Blacksville, West Virginia on September 28th, 1995. Her parents are Tara Clendenin and Greg Eddy. Sheila's parents divorced in 2000 when she was about 5 years old. Skylar and Shelia had been friends since they were 8 years old. They had met at a kids' activity program called The Shack. Skylar's mother said they had been friends since they were 8 years old. They were inseparable. Her father said, "She was like a part of our family. She really was. I mean, just like one of our kids." Tara, who is Sheila's mother, remarried in 2010, and the mother and daughter moved from Blacksville to Morgantown. Sheila then attended University High School with Skylar. Son Rachel Elizabeth Shoaf was born to Rusty and Patricia Shoaf on June 10th, 1996. She was raised in Morgantown and attended a private Catholic school until she reached high school. She then also attended University High School, where she met Skylar and Sheila. The three girls hung out often and were frequently seen together, both in and out of school. They would drive around together late at night and would spend time at each other's houses. In the months before July 2012, there were said to be some simmering tensions in the friend group. This was put down to teenage behavior, and it wasn't really enough to alarm anyone. It's not really shocking that a bunch of teenage girls would fight sometimes.
Yeah.
So there are tweets, because 2012 was probably like peak Twitter time about.
I feel like this was the peak time too. Like, on Facebook, it's like they would give you the
bitch
prompt
on social media.
or it would give you the prompt and it would be like, Olivia is blah, blah, blah today. Like, it's stuff like that. So it's where people would literally comment about every moment of their day or every thought they had, they'd put it on social media.
Yeah. It's like there's a tweet from Sheila from March 20th, 2013. It says, "I seriously have the worst temper lately." Skylar did make some tweets that alluded to her being excluded and left out. One tweet that she made on the night before she was murdered said, "You doing blank like that is why I will never completely trust you."
And I did find it interesting that both of their Twitters or X accounts now are still up. And so you can go and have a look at them and see what they were tweeting about.
Very eerie.
Yeah.
So on the evening of Thursday, July 5th, 2012, Skylar returned to her family's apartment after finishing her shift at Wendy's. Around 12:30 a.m. on July 6th, Skylar left the apartment via her bedroom window and got into a light-colored sedan. And this was all caught on CCTV. You can see Skylar's parents discovered later that morning that she was not in her bed and that her window screen was open. Her father said, "The first thing I noticed was that the bed hadn't been slept in." She'd been due to work that day, and when she missed her shift, her parents became worried. Her father said she wasn't like that. She always showed up for work. You notice all these people are like, they always showed up for work. Like, no one's ever like, well, sometimes she just blow off work. They reported her missing. She was initially considered by law enforcement to be a runaway, and this hindered the investigation due to the lack of urgency, which I feel like we talk about all the time. Skylar's father said that she had left behind her phone charger and contact lenses, and that he was adamant she was planning to return home. Police determined that the car Skylar had entered belonged to Sheila, so big mistake there on their part.
Yeah.
Skylar's cousin, Ricky Woodall, said the police interviewed the friend, and she admitted she picked Skylar up that night, but swears she dropped her off an hour later. The girl said Skylar was insistent that she be dropped off down the street so that her friend's car didn't wake anyone. She has a lot of friends and is big into social networks, but has not been online since she disappeared. There's been no bank activity, and her cell phone has not been turned on. She loves school. She's a great 4.0 student who's in honors classes. So when school started and she wasn't in class, people started to really question whether something might seriously be wrong. In September 2012, police gave an update. According to police, there was no surveillance footage of Skylar returning to the apartment complex. So the Star City Police Chief, Vic Probst, told Huffington Post, "We know she left voluntarily from the surveillance tape, but we have not been able to account for her whereabouts since then." He said, "My department has close to 400 man-hours in on this already. We have followed up on over 160 pieces of information so far, and we still have not turned up any concrete leads. The FBI, state police, and every local department is in on it. We're all aggressively working on it every day." So that same month, the FBI and the West Virginia State Police joined the search for Skylar. They began interviewing all of her friends from high school. Skylar's friends, including Rachel and Sheila, participated in searches for her and also attended vigils in her honor. So there are some posts that Sheila made. There's like a memorial type post with pictures of them together. It says, "Rest easy, Skylar. You will always be my best friend. I miss you more than you could ever know." And then she also commented on something. Said, "All I want is for my best friend to come home. I wish I knew something to give the police a lead or so she can come home, but I don't know anything. I'd do anything to have her home right now, and I wish I knew something like everybody thinks I do. Come home, Skylar. It's been 5 weeks too long. I miss you and love you." And then
Yeah, her dad, Skylar's dad commented under that.
Yeah, and then her dad replied to the comment. Skylar's dad commented and said, "Hang tough, babe. Do not let things get you down. Love you." So it's just like, ugh, what a performative bitch.
Yeah.
Authorities looked into phone records of Skylar and her friends and found that they contradicted the girls' stories and what had happened. Cell phone pings indicated that the girls were in rural Pennsylvania around 4 a.m., hours after Sheila had said that she and Rachel would have dropped Skylar off at home. Police also found CCTV of Sheila's car passing by a Sheetz gas station around midnight in the direction of Blacksville. The footage confirmed that this was the same car that had picked up Skylar earlier that night. Investigators are becoming more convinced that Rachel and Sheila were holding back information.
So I think it was because that car was seen at the gas station right around the time they had allegedly said they dropped Skylar home. So they're like, well, this isn't adding up. You are withholding information or telling us mistruths. But that is why that was kind of significant.
Yeah, it seems like they were kind of caught basically from the start with this one. So in December 2012, Rachel and Sheila agreed to take lie detector tests. FBI examiner Rob Ambrosini said, with the vehicle on camera and the timing not matching their story, it became clear that both were concealing something. The interviews were full of denial, but you could sense the truth starting to emerge. So Sheila failed and Rachel suffered a nervous breakdown following the test, so another red flag. Rachel's mother called 911 at one point, and Rachel could be heard screaming in the background. She was taken to a psychiatric hospital where she remained for 5 days. After she was well enough to be released, Rachel asked to go straight to her lawyer's office where she confessed to Skylar's murder. So Rachel told investigators that she and Sheila had planned Skylar's murder while in science class. Other students were found to have overheard the plot but didn't report it as they thought that Rachel and Sheila were joking, which is like, I get it in the time, but once Skylar's missing, don't you think that you should have been like, well, actually, I guess it seems so shocking that you're like, there's no way, but...
Yeah. Like teenage girls are something else. I have some teenage girls. The stuff I hear about other teenage girls also, like in terms of things that happen, are a lot. So I totally get that these other kids would have never have thought that this was actually going to be a real thing. But I do agree that is, once she was missing and that maybe they should have come forward at that point.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I've mentioned it like casually a few times here that I went through like horrible like bullying and harassment to the point where I had a restraining order against a girl. But like, I could still never imagine it getting to this point. Like, I literally had a restraining order against someone, but I still could never imagine getting murdered over it, basically. Like, it's crazy. And we were older. Like, they were only 16 years old. So she said they lured Skylar from her home with the promise of going for a drive and smoking marijuana. They honked their car horn 3 times to signal Skylar to come out and join them. Isn't that kind of loud?
Yeah. After they would try to, like, Skylar was like, their story was that Skylar didn't want them to drive the car up to the house to drop off in case anyone see it, but they're out there beeping the horn 3 times.
But they rolled up like beep, beep, beep.
Yeah.
Sheila and Rachel had hidden cleaning rags, bleach, wet wipes, a shovel, and spare clothes in the car prior to picking Skylar up. Rachel said that she and Sheila took kitchen knives from their homes and parked alongside a remote wooded road in Brave, Pennsylvania. They wrapped the knives in towels and tucked them under their arms. The girls got out of the car and were chatting and socializing. Sheila and Rachel told Skylar they had forgotten to bring a lighter. Skylar went back towards Sheila's car to get her lighter, and at that point, Sheila and Rachel counted to 3 and then attacked Skylar. Rachel said that Skylar was stabbed around 50 times, and during the attack, Skylar asked her friends why. She tried to run away, but Sheila and Rachel caught up to her and continued the attack. At one point, Skylar managed to take the knife from Rachel and stabbed her above the ankle. Rachel said she stopped the attack at that point, but Sheila continued to stab Skylar. Once there was complete silence and Skylar's neck, quote, stopped making weird sounds, the girls covered her body with leaves and left it in the woods. Rachel was asked about the motive for the murder and simply said, we just didn't like her, and they didn't want to be friends with her anymore. Rachel led investigators to Skylar's body on January 16, 2013, where it was found covered with brush and branches, just as she described. Skylar's body was formally identified on March 13, 2013.
So on May 1st, 2013, Rachel pled guilty to second-degree murder by unlawfully, feloniously, willfully, maliciously, and intentionally causing the death of Skylar Neese by stabbing her and causing fatal injuries. In the plea agreement, the state of West Virginia recommended a sentence of 20 years incarceration. Rachel's family issued a public apology for their daughter's actions through their lawyer. They said there is no way to describe the pain that we too are feeling, which I feel like is never a great way to start an apology to someone who's –
I know.
Anyway, but I guess their heart was maybe in the right place. They went on to say, we are truly sorry for the pain that she has caused the Neese family, and we know her actions are unforgivable and inexcusable. Our daughter has admitted her involvement and she's accepted responsibility for her actions. They went on to say, our hearts are broken for your loss and we are still trying to come to terms with this event. Following her guilty plea on May 1st of 2013, Rachel was sentenced in February of 2014 to 30 years in prison, and she was eligible for parole after 10 years, which would have been 2024, which we'll get into. Rachel made her own apology. She said, the person that did that was not the real me. I became scared, caught up in something I didn't want to do. Dave said, Rachel Shoaf murdered my daughter in cold blood. She can take her apologies and sit on them. Mary, Skylar's mother, said, we suspected that they both knew something about it, but we would never have dreamed that they actually had murdered her. Dave went on to say, I never thought in my deepest, darkest dreams that the two people that she was best friends with could be related to this. I couldn't wrap my head around it. We are going through emotional hell. So even though Rachel was pretty quick to confess, she obviously knew that this, gig was up once she took the polygraph, and she knew that things weren't going to go her way. Despite all this, Shelia kept denying her involvement in Skylar's death. In April of 2013, she made this tweet. She said, we really did go on 3. She said, we really did go on 3, which I just feel like is so, like you said, performative, entitled, ridiculous, just a
very like, I'm
person.
a cool girl.
Yeah, look at me, like a mean girl. I'm a mean, cool girl.
Mm-hmm.
Blood found in Sheila's car was able to be tested, and the DNA of that blood matched Skylar's, which is no shock to anyone. In September of 2013, Shelia was named as the second alleged perpetrator in Skylar's murder. West Virginia prosecutors announced that she would be tried as an adult, and she was indicted by a grand jury that month on 1 count of kidnapping, 1 count of first-degree murder, and 1 count of conspiracy to commit murder. She pled not guilty, and her trial was set for January 28th of 2014. She was told that she may face additional charges from Pennsylvania authorities, which is where the murder actually happened. And after she was told that, she ended up pleading guilty to first-degree murder. She expressed no remorse. I don't believe she has ever expressed any remorse from what I've read. Despite that, she was sentenced to life in prison with mercy. West Virginia law requires that a juvenile offender have the possibility of parole on a whole life sentence, and that meant that Shelia would be eligible for parole after 15 years. Pennsylvania authorities did not file any additional charges as per the plea deal. So Dave said, my life and my wife's life have been drastically altered. We're no longer a family. You can look into the eyes of those who are responsible, but you can never know what they heard as they were taking her life. He said, you can't imagine how Mary and I now feel. As of March 2026, Rachel and Shelia both remain in custody in the Lakin Correctional Center, which I find it interesting that they're being held together. I feel like it would have been probably
I thought that was weird too.
To separate them, but anyway. Rachel has been denied parole twice in 2023 and 24. She will be eligible again this year in June 2026. During her 2023 parole hearing, Rachel said that she and Shelia had killed Skylar because they were worried that Skylar would reveal a romantic relationship they were having. I don't really understand how she thought that would be beneficial to her parole hearing, maybe indicating that she was scared of something. I don't know, but it just seems like a weird aspect.
Yeah, I agree.
To try and use to get parole. Shelia will become eligible for parole in May 2028, so only a few years away. I would be surprised if either of them get out anytime soon. Maybe Rachel
Agreed.
is a little bit more
I hope they
likely.
don't.
It does seem like Shelia was probably more of the puppet master, more of the mastermind behind this shitty, awful plot. But Rachel took part. Rachel was one of the ones who stabbed Skylar more than 50 times. So I would be shocked if they get out.
It is good that Rachel clearly did feel guilty and came forward and confessed to everything, but like you said, she still participated and did that. So I think that they should both have their full sentence.
I feel like that's the only saving grace for Rachel is that she did admit it and she confessed, and maybe that will be looked on a little bit more favorably, but they were both equally as responsible for the murder of Skylar. Dave said, there comes a time in your life where you have to decide what you want to do. And for the rest of my life, I decided to make sure the two that did this don't get out of prison because dangerous animals belong in cages. So there is a pretty new, looks like a mugshot of both of the women. Sheila's face is just smug. I know you said we need to start saying smug, but she's just like looking at the camera. Her eyebrows are a bit raised. She's like, yeah, looking like she just is.
Yeah, doesn't care.
Just a smug face. So we always talk about when someone is abducted or missing and like people are like, why don't they issue an Amber Alert? I guess in this case they did have the car or they knew what kind of car, but under West Virginia law at the time, authorities were unable to issue an Amber Alert because they believed that Skylar had left voluntarily and hadn't been abducted. After her death, her parents advocated for legislative reform and they argued that missing child cases should trigger alerts more quickly, even if abduction had not yet been proven. In 2013, West Virginia lawmakers unanimously passed what was known as Skylar's Law. That measure expanded the state's missing child alert system and it eliminated strict abduction requirements, which meant that alerts could be issued more rapidly when a child was missing and believed to be in danger. So in terms of Mary and Dave now, they have left West Virginia and have moved to Pennsylvania. They did participate in a docuseries called Friends Like These. So you may have heard about it. That's kind of the most recent more extensive
I see it being
media
pushed
coverage.
On like Netflix or something all the time or whatever it's on.
So they've also worked on an initiative called Skylar's Promise, which encourages teens to speak up if they hear any threats or any other concerning behaviour. Dave said that's not narking, that's saving lives. So I understand, teens don't want to be narc. Like even from like when my daughter tells me something, I'm like, don't get involved. Obviously it's nothing of this magnitude, but it's if she tells me like some rumor or something, I'm like, just it's got nothing to do with you, don't get involved. But I do agree that if someone is hearing about violent threats made against another teen, they should absolutely be reporting those.
Yeah.
So Skylar's parents created a scholarship in her name. The money raised for the fund helps assist with tuition expenses for a West Virginia law student, as Skylar had ambitions of becoming a lawyer one day. Dave said her dream was to go to law school and that's what she was going to do. If you ever argued with her, you'd see why. She was great. So it's such a sad case. I just feel so horrible for Skylar. Like being a 16-year-old girl is hard enough anyway. They were obviously having these issues within her friend group. She thought they were her friends. They were just going out, to smoke pot and, be together. And then for them to turn on her, it's just so horrific. I feel like all teenage girls do is they want to try and fit in, and there's often this power struggle, this hierarchy, and some of them are mean girls and all this type of thing. So I feel like Skylar just wanted to fit in. It seems like Rachel and Sheila had become closer, and when it's always an issue too when there's three girls in a group, there's always one left out, and I feel like Skylar was the one being left out. She made the tweets about it, so it was just one of those situations.
That's why it's sad. Too, because I bet she was like excited to like go hang out and like be included also.
And being a little bit naughty, like sneaking out of the house, it's all a little bit exciting. And I'm not like, don't get me wrong, she shouldn't have done it. None of them should have done it. But it's just a minor thing. Sneaking out, going out for a few, that's all she thought she was doing. Going out for a few hours with her friends. She would have thought that it was great. They were including her, they'd made these plans. She would have probably felt good about the plan and the scenario that night.
Especially sad because her and Sheila had been friends for so long since they were
they were 8 years old. So Skylar trusted the two people that she was with that night probably more than anyone in the world. I'm sure she shared secrets with them, even though she knew there was this weird dynamic change maybe going on at that time, which happens sometimes when you're a teenager. And I feel like that is just part of what makes this case extra horrible, is that it wasn't someone that just randomly picked her off the street. It was people that she loved and trusted and thought were her best friends.
Yeah, that's horrible.
So there are a bunch of other cases that are quite similar where it's usually teenage girls become involved. Like there's a situation in a friendship group where one of the girls is pushed out and sometimes it turns to murder. We did cover the case of Shanda Shara. We actually covered her case in 2024. So if you are interested in that, go back and have a listen. But basically she was just 12 years old when she was murdered in January of 1992. So yeah, Shanda was 12 years old, so even younger than Skylar, which is just unbelievable. And she was kidnapped and, basically tortured by these older girls who, like, there was this whole kind of weird relationship dynamic going on. So she was literally tortured for hours. They doused her body in gasoline, lit her on fire. They went back to the house and then pretended nothing had happened. So
Yeah,
I
it's
feel
very grim.
Yeah, it's a horrible, horrible case. And like some of the other cases I noted down, which we may look into in the future, are the Slender Man case, which a lot of people have asked for, which is kind of similar, and also the murder of Cassie Jo Stoddart. She was 16 years old when she was murdered in 2006, and basically she was part of a thrill killing by some friends and classmates. They were males though, so a little bit different, but I just feel like, I don't know, sometimes when you're a teenager, obviously, hormones, it's a tough time. I don't even know what Sheila and Rachel thought they were doing and how they ever thought they could get away with it.
Well, I think the problem is like they don't think about like the permanence of it in a way, like and like the long-standing effects and really what they're doing.
I feel like too often it's like, and I'm not sticking on for Sheila and Rachel, what they did was totally wrong, but I also feel like part of it is about the brain development. They just don't think about consequences. They're not able to envision what could actually happen. They're just so stuck in the moment, and like they had this plan to let's get rid of Skylar. She's annoying. We just don't want to be her friend anymore.
Yeah,
that they thought they could get away with this ridiculous, heinous murder, more than like stabbing her 50 times, and then she's asking why. It's just horrible.
Definitely some like mental illness has to be thrown in.
Yeah. I feel like, especially for me, I feel like more so on Sheila's part, she seems to me to be like
when you look at her, Rachel was just a follower.
Rachel was a sheep. Like Sheila's eyes seem soulless. She just I don't think she has any remorse. Whether or not Rachel has remorse because she got caught, I don't know. But I just like the vibe that I get is Sheila really doesn't give a shit and never did, whereas Rachel maybe seems a little bit more empathetic and emotional about what has happened.
Yeah, it's just horrible and crazy. Like it's just crazy because you think about how young they are, that you're like, wow, like I can't believe 16-year-olds can do this. But like when I think back to being like that age, 16 years old, the fucking drama and like chaos, it's like unreal really when you think about it.
I feel like for me, probably some of the worst years of my life still to date were the 7th and 8th and maybe into the 9th grade, which is around how old these kids were. They were probably a little bit older. But it's just such a tough time because kids are mean. Like even I was reading on Reddit the other day and it almost broke my heart. I had to get off. I couldn't read it all. And it was this person posted text exchange that their daughter had with an apparent friend. And it was the meanest thing I have ever read.
Mean.
And she's like, what do I do? Do I tell the parent? And the comments are like, well, these kids learn this behavior from somewhere. It might be coming from the parent. Like it was heartbreaking. The person who they were talking about had no idea how mean this other girl was being. Like the girl was being a total cow. And the girl was just like, oh, you're my best friend. And the girl would write back, yeah, like just things like that.
It's so sad. I do not miss being that age at all.
No. And even when I was doing these notes, I did find it quite hard and confronting because I have 2 daughters who aren't quite 16 yet, but they're almost there. And it's just a horrible, horrible time. Like kids worry about things like body image, fitting in, even grades and all that stuff.
Being cool, relationships.
There's just so many things they're having to deal with. Plus their bodies are changing. Like there's just a lot. So it's just, it's just horrible. And even for Dave and Mary, Skylar was their only child. It's just.
And like I said, horrendous. Sheila was like another one of their kids at one point.
Yeah. And even like when her dad was writing, stay in there, we love you. Hang in there, we love you.
What a bitch.
Yeah. I hope they both never get out, actually. I just think such a horrific betrayal of trust and also just a horrendous murder. It's not like they shot her once and it was done. She suffered. She fought back. She stabbed one of them, tried to live, asked why. I hope they never get out.
It's horrible. I agree. Rot in prison forever. But that is it for this episode. So let us know your thoughts on the case, or if you know any other ones like it, because maybe we'll do a few more like the ones we mentioned. Everything will be on the blog at truecrimesocietyblog.com as always. Make sure you're following us on Instagram. We're always posting updates and the latest cases on there. And if you want to see what we're up to, my Instagram _, Olivia's TCS Olivia. Check us out on Patreon if you want more content from us. We do 2 episodes a week on there. So we do the main episode and a weekly bonus episode, all without ads. And the main episode comes out a day earlier on Patreon. Plus we have some fun chats on there, like a little book club, and we talk about TV shows, whatever, send pictures of our pets, babies, kids, just lots going on Patreon. all the usual stuff. If you could share to your Instagram stories with the podcast, like what you're doing when you're listening to the podcast. We love resharing them and seeing what everyone's jobs and hobbies or what you guys are doing while you listen to the podcast. It's fun to reshare them. And leave us some comments on Spotify. We like to see what you guys have to say about the episodes. So keep it all up. Like I said, that is it. Thank you guys for listening. Stay safe out there. Peace out.